Why has the agreement that the U.S. is signing with countries, including Ethiopia, become controversial? Since President Donald Trump's administration took office, the United States has cut off its multifaceted support and cooperation with various countries through its massive aid agency, USAID. Instead, it has begun implementing new policies, particularly in the health sector. This new plan, called the America First Global Health Strategy, combines global health policy with foreign aid. Over the past few months, agreements have been signed with countries to implement the strategy. The new approach has completely transformed the way aid was previously provided to countries through non-governmental organizations. It is done through partnerships and agreements with governments. The Global Health Strategy, dubbed America First, announced by the U.S. State Department last September, prioritizes U.S. national interests, builds on bilateral partnerships, and allows partner countries to make their own contributions. In recent weeks, the U.S. government has signed a partnership agreement with Ethiopia, one of the agreements it has been signing with various countries. The 5-year agreement will invest more than $1.6 billion in the health sector. The U.S. government will cover $1.16 billion, with the rest being covered by the Ethiopian government. Kenya is the first neighboring country to sign this agreement with the U.S. government. Kenya signed the $2.5 billion agreement in late November, under the auspices of its president and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The strategy does not consider agreements with countries as humanitarian assistance. Rather, it focuses on protecting the safety of Americans by early detection, prevention, and control of diseases that occur in various countries around the world. The plan would be implemented through a joint agreement between the United States and governments, rather than funding the World Health Organization and other international health organizations that Trump has criticized, as well as the U.S. government's USAID and PEPFAR, to carry out their work. The process focuses on collaboration with governments rather than directly reaching beneficiaries. One of the goals of the collaboration is to strengthen countries' capacity to detect diseases early and prevent them from reaching the United States. It also aims to strengthen health systems in other countries and make them more self-reliant. But this strategy is being criticized. Experts say the change will weaken the existing global health system, disrupt essential services, and undermine the multi-sectoral cooperation framework that has helped control previous outbreaks. Civil society organizations in Africa and elsewhere are raising questions about the bilateral agreements that countries are signing with the United States. They argue that reaching long-term national health and sample sharing agreements without conditions that ensure equitable benefit sharing deprives countries of the benefits they deserve. They also say that this agreement between the United States and countries erodes national and regional health data sovereignty and weakens the negotiated continental framework. Countries are placing great emphasis on strengthening their health information management systems in agreements they reach with the United States, and the U.S. government will play a major role in this. They express concern that this will make signatory countries dependent on foreign countries for their health infrastructure. The agreement suspended by the court in Kenya. Kenya, the first country to sign the agreement, will receive $2.5 billion in aid over 5 years. The signing of the agreement has raised concerns that the U.S. will have easy access to sensitive personal health data. Some Kenyans are calling for the full text of the agreement to be disclosed, fearing that it could give the United States access to personal medical information, such as HIV and TB treatment histories and vaccination records of Kenyans. What specific categories of information are being shared with the U.S.? Genetic information, disease status, mental health information, insurance claims, hospital records, or biometrics? If it doesn't include these, why isn't it clearly stated? Attorney Willis Odieno wrote on his X page. The announcement was made following a request from many concerned Kenyans for the government to make the full content of the agreement signed with the United States public. A week after the agreement was signed, a Kenyan court blocked the agreement from taking effect due to a complaint filed by civil rights groups regarding the protection of personal data. In its ruling, The court temporarily blocked the transfer of health information that requires protection under the agreement reached between the two countries. The Kenyan government has said it respects the court's decision and will appeal, explaining that the ban does not apply to the entire agreement, but only to the part that deals with information sharing. The Consumers Federation of Kenya, one of the groups that took the case to court, said the country was jeopardizing its national interest by handing over critical health system information. The Kenyan High Court has imposed a stay on the agreement until the first week of February, pending a full hearing of the case and a final decision. Meanwhile, the Kenyan government has responded to the public's concerns. In a statement, the country's Ministry of Health said the agreement was reached in accordance with due process and in full respect of the country's sovereignty, data ownership, and intellectual property rights. The United States is signing the agreement with several African countries, including Ethiopia. So far, Kenya, Rwanda, Liberia, Uganda, Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique, Cameroon, and Nigeria have signed the Memorandum of Understanding with the United States and agreed to receive varying amounts of support. The Associated Press, AP, reported that some of the countries that signed the agreement have seen reduced U.S. support or have agreed to accept third-country refugees who are being deported by the Trump administration. As an example, the U.S. State Department cited Nigeria's agreement to receive about $2 billion over 5 years in recognition of its focus on protecting Christians from violence and providing significant support to Christian health facilities. Since the agreement is centered on American national interests, President Trump or Secretary of State Rubio have the right to terminate the agreement at any time if countries pursue programs that are incompatible with American interests. The agreement signed by Ethiopia. Ethiopia signed the agreement with the United States on Tuesday, December 14, 2018. The agreement was signed by Finance Minister Ahmed Shirta and Health Minister Dr. Megs Daba on the Ethiopian side, and Ambassador Irvin Masinga on the American side. As announced after the agreement, it was announced that $1.6 billion will be spent on the health sector over 5 years through the agreement between Ethiopia and the United States. Although the details of the agreement are not yet known, it is believed that its basic content will not differ from agreements that the United States has signed with other African countries. Therefore, the controversial issue of sharing health information may arise. In this regard, the issue that may arise is the Ethiopian Personal Data Protection Law. Indeed, if there is an issue of data sharing in the agreement signed by Ethiopia, the Personal Data Protection Proclamation, issued in 2016, will be raised. In this regard, it is noted that in Article 20, in the section listing the circumstances under which data may be transferred from within the country to abroad, the conditions listed to ensure the security and protection of personal data information must be met and are determined by the relevant authority. The U.S. agreement with other countries, which includes the sharing of information to help control and prevent diseases, has raised serious questions, especially in Kenya, over concerns that protected personal data will be included, which has led to the case going to court. The Ethiopian Personal Data Protection Proclamation also defines this personal information as sensitive personal data, which clearly states which personal information it includes. In light of the agreements that countries are reaching, sensitive personal data includes a natural person's race or ethnicity, genetic or biological data, physical or mental health or condition, and others. There is no word yet on whether this information sharing will be part of the agreement Ethiopia reached with the United States. If it does exist, it will be known in the future why it will be used and what kind of protection it will be afforded.